Much has been made about Hurricane Irma's impact in Florida, and deservedly so, what with significant structural damage in the Keys and about 15 million Floridians without power at some point. That's about 3 out of every 4 Florida residents. But Irma would have been historic even if it never affected the mainland U.S. because of its impact along a 300-mile stretch of islands that essentially separates the northeastern Caribbean from the open Atlantic Ocean, a slice of paradise that includes interests of the United States, France, the UK, and even the Netherlands. The first to experience Irma was the small sovereign island of Barbuda, about 1,800 inhabitants on 62 square miles. The eye passed directly over the island. Category 5 winds destroyed 95% of the structures. Everyone has since evacuated. The first time in 300 years that nobody occupies that island. Here's a graph of pressure from Barbuda. The scale here is inches of mercury. Usually sea level pressure is around 30 inches. In a matter of hours, as the eye of the Category 5 hurricane approached, the pressure dropped by about 3 inches or 10%, then rose just as quickly as the eye moved away. Irma continued west-northwestward as a Cat 5 to the islands of St. Barthélemy or St. Bart's, an overseas region of France, Anguilla, a British territory, and St. Martin, the world's smallest inhabited island shared by 2 nations, in this case France and the Netherlands. All are heavily dependent on tourism, all suffered severe damage from Irma. The worst natural disaster on record on St. Martin, far exceeding that of any previous hurricane, while one resident of St. Bart's compared it to a bomb that burned all the vegetation. The Virgin Islands were next. Here's a natural color image of some of the British islands before Irma hit, and this is after. The lush green tropical vegetation turned brown, ripped away by the wind and damaged by salt spray. In the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas was hardest hit. In places, the postcard-perfect land almost unrecognizable. Trees stripped bare with widespread structural damage. Among the many records set by Irma, it maintained winds of 185 miles per hour for more than a day and a half, the longest that any observed hurricane on the planet has maintained that intensity. Irma spent 3¼ days as a Category 5 hurricane, tied with a hurricane that hit Cuba in 1932, for longest as a Cat 5 in the Atlantic. And finally, one measure that we use to gauge the cumulative energy of a hurricane is called accumulated cyclone energy. It incorporates both wind speed and how long the storm lasts. By this measure, Irma alone exceeded 18 entire hurricane seasons in the last 50 years in the Atlantic. Hurricane Maria is well on the way to setting its own set of records. We'll address whether that storm has a chance at affecting the mainland U.S. in the extended forecast next.